Okay, so this is part 2 of finding x and y intercepts graphically and mathematically. So I'm going to finish out these notes, the last 4 problems, so 21 through 24. So in order to graph these functions, we are going to use the intercept method. And if you remember, that intercept method is where we find the x and y intercept, and then that is going to give us 2 points, and we can use those 2 points to graph our equation. So on 21, we have 2y plus 1/4 x equals -2. Before I solve this problem, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that 1/4 fraction. And since it's the only fraction here, I'm going to multiply every term by its denominator, 4. So every term I'm going to multiply by 4. This gives me 8y plus x, because 1/4 times 4 is 1, and I don't need to write that 1 there, is equal to -8. Now that I have this function in standard form without any fractions, I'm going to find the x-intercept and then the y-intercept. So remember, the x-intercept is when y is equal to 0. So 8 times 0 is, plus x is equal to -8. 8 times 0 cancels out, and I'm left with x is equal to -8. And if I was to write that as a point, that would be -8, 0. So that's my first point. Let me go ahead and plot that. So -8, 0. So right over here. Now I'm going to find my y-intercept, and that is when x is equal to 0. So I have 8y plus 0 is equal to -8. That 0 goes away, so I'm left with 8y is equal to -8. And if I divide both sides by 8, I get y is equal to -1, which gives me the point 0, -1. So that's right here. So now that I have my 2 points, I can connect them with a line. And that is my answer. Okay. Now let's look at 22. So 22, again, looking at our function in standard form, there's no fractions here, so I'm going to go ahead and just start off by finding the x-intercept. So the x-intercept is when y is equal to 0. So I have 12 times 0 minus 2x equals 6. 12 times 0 canceled, so I'm left with -2x equals 6. Divide both sides by that -2, and I get x is equal to -3, or I have the point -3, 0. So plotting that first. So right here. Then I'm going to find my y-intercept, and that is when x is equal to 0. So I have 12y minus 2 times 0 is equal to 6. That -2 times 0 cancels, so I'm left with 12y equals 6. Dividing both sides by 12, I get y is equal to 6 over 12, which is 1/2, but I'm going to go ahead and turn that into a decimal of 0.5. So if I was to write this as a point, it would be 0, 0.5. So about right here. Now that I have my 2 points, I can go ahead and create my graph. And then that one's my answer. Okay. Now let's look at number 23. Notice in number 23, we only have a y. So we have 5y over 2 is equal to 10. So since I don't have my x variable, I'm going to go ahead and just solve for y and see what I get. So the first thing I need to do to get this y by itself is to get rid of the 2 in the denominator. And I do that by multiplying both sides by 2. So this side by 2 and this side by 2. So then these 2's cancel out, and I'm left with 5y is equal to 20. Divide by 5, and I get y is equal to 4. Okay. Notice this y is equal to 4 is going to give me a constant function. Okay, because I don't have any other variables there. So y equals to 4 gave me that y-intercept of 0, 4. So if I plot that, 1, 2, 3, 4 right here, that means my line is going to be a horizontal line going through that point 0, 4. So this tells us right away that there are no x-intercepts. And since we got that constant function, that horizontal line, we also don't have a slope. The slope is 0. Okay. So now let's look at 24, which shows the opposite. So now instead of just having y, we have just x. So we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to get x by itself. That's our first step. In order to do that, we're going to divide both sides by 8, and I get x is equal to -2. Okay. This means we only have our x-intercept of -2, 0. So if I plot this, I get this point here. When we have a function that says x equals, that's going to give us a vertical line. This vertical line does not have a y-intercept because it does not pass the y-axis. The slope here would be considered undefined because this equation, that 8x equals -16,